Hello everyone and welcome to a time-lapse of me making Amazing Land for the Godot Wild Jam number 20. This is a long video, so sit back, relax and enjoy this time-lapse as I'm going to be speaking through what I have been doing. If you want to skip to the beginning of the jam, skip about 8 minutes of the video. And so yeah. Here I have started by learning 4 days before the Godot Jam has started. I didn't know what theme it's going to be, so I just started learning everything about Godot because I've never used this engine before. So I started with the first 2D game engine. It's a game that simply uses all the Godot controls, shows how to do script, shows some stuff in terms of how collisions work, everything like that. It's a nice tutorial. It's a really good tutorial. I had to speed up the video though. It was like very slow. So anyway, it was a pretty long video, but it was a very nice video to learn, to see what Godot offers. I was going to watch the second part as well, but I never really got down to it. So yeah, here is showing how the input maps work, how everything else works, some input in Godot. It's pretty nice. It took me some time to get this done. Yeah, it was a really good tutorial, as I say. The tutorials that I use in this jam, I will link them in the description. I'll see as much as I can. I'll try and link up all of them, but yeah. Oh, and there's me starting to play Minecraft because I got tired, and let's be honest, that's what I would probably do, because I can, and I'm recording all in honesty, so I'm just showing what I have done in this jam. During the jam, and it's now 3 days before the jam starts, and I continue the course. I mean, it's just a tutorial video on YouTube, so nothing too fancy, but it's this thing I continue doing. Then on the next day, getting decently in the evening of the game of the day, and just sharing some really cool stuff that I found out on the Godot, because I found some things that you can do super simple in code. I was like absolutely shocked to find out that it was like, oh, it's that simple. You can make this quickly. So that just completely blew me away when I was learning. So that I just had to share it to my group from college that I do. Yeah. It was crazy. So then as you can see, I'm quickly switching between the video and the actual Godot functions and the Godot interface and everything. I'm switching in between really quickly because I just felt like it would be easier to see what is happening on the screen, because I have only one monitor. It's nothing too fancy. So I'm looking up I was looking up on some more things of how to use this. Then I saw some other Godot basic tutorial showing me how to do some other thing, and then I found Kids Can Code. I think my dad showed this to me. It's a really good tutorial. They just make very quick Godot recipes showing how to make very simple things very quickly. I really enjoyed this. This is the animation states. That's pretty nice. I didn't use animation states in this jam, but I probably would if I would use next time. Here is a guy talking about how singletons work, but then my dad came in and said nope, he's using them incorrectly. So, but it's a good way to know what Godot offers in the jam. I continue just slightly tweaking the game, because I can really mess about and do some things in this game. I'm just looking through the code and probably showing some of the things to Dad, because it was kind of interesting. Talking about some variables. It was really simple. At the beginning, you might have seen me looking through the first tutorial showing how variables work. Obviously, I know how that works, but I thought maybe they would show some things that I never knew before, but it was actually some things like that's obvious. I just didn't know the syntaxing in Godot. And then there is this tutorial. This is a really nice tutorial just showing how to make a simple 3D game, just using all the very basic concepts, how to make a controller, how to make things collide, how to make things collectible, how to do all sorts of things. Here's some of the code, just showing that's the controls. It was a really nice thing. So I think I used this tutorial a lot in my maze, in the Amazing Land game. And then it is one day left till the jam starts. So here I'm looking through all the themes, looking through all the wildcards, looking to see what people are suggesting and seeing, and maybe I can vote on some of the really good ones. I don't think the theme that I voted for, the theme that ended up, I don't think it was one of the ones that I voted. Anyway. Here's me looking into an RPG series, tutorial series that someone was making. My dad recommended me to watch this, but then in the end it's kind of like, that's a little bit too much, and it's a lot of the things I already know, so I don't think it will be important. So my dad showed this tutorial guy who is called Johnny Gustev. It's really, really neat tutorials on very simple things, just quick tips for very nice things. Not too much videos, but extremely helpful to make very, very simple things, like the animations, some nice things you can change in the code to make things a lot simpler. There's him showing how to mess around with rich text. It was really fun to look. And then he showed how to make it yourself if you want to make your own rich text effect, which is cool. There's some more videos and tutorials that I watched, and now it's 8 hours till it starts, and the day it begins. This is the beginning of the jam. Every end is a new beginning. That's the theme, and I had no idea what I wanted to make for a long time until I thought, hey, I'm just gonna recreate a game that I made quite a while ago. I made a game for Ludum Dare Game Jam, which was themed the entire game on one screen. So I just made kind of a copy of what my dad had made already in his game, which I think is called I think it's Secret Maze that he made it in. So yeah, he made the game where you collect one key and that opens a different door. So I did the same, but it was a 2D version of the game, and it was very old. And here Dad has showed me how to use grid maps. He showed me a tutorial on YouTube that there is a thing called grid maps, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is amazing. This is gonna solve the entire maze thing. This is awesome. So I started playing around with the maze. I couldn't quite get the tiles to work correctly because I was just using the Godot, just a simple meshes, but it didn't quite work, so I had to ask the community in the Godot Wild Jam Discord, which they have a really awesome community. Those guys are amazing. So I tried doing the same thing in Wings. I try to make the models of the tiles in Wings, but I feel like they didn't quite work out. It took me it was kind of tedious. Didn't quite really work, as you can see. I mean, I still used them for quite a while, so I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Using the tile system tool, it's kind of satisfying watching me make some stuff here. I just quickly put stuff together in like 10 minutes, this tiny maze, and then share it on the community. And if you guys are ever doing any game jams, do share with communities. Do connect with the communities that are involved with the jam. It's amazing what things they can suggest and what they can tell about your game. It's really awesome. Here's a tutorial about how to make an FPS game, which I obviously used a lot because this is a first-person game. And I needed to use this exact tutorial to show exactly how it would be done. So there's me still looking around, trying to do the camera, trying to make some movements, making sure that my player settings and input maps are all correct. Yeah. There's the camera movement, which was pretty decent. It's really simple. Then I looked back into the tutorial which I watched a few days ago to show how the movement works, and I had to tweak some things around to make sure it fits. Here's me looking into more of what the community has been up to over the night, and making up some more things. I try to re-import the tile sets. I'm looking through the tutorial again to make sure my camera is working correctly. Then I tried all sorts of things because it was a little bit off. It didn't quite work the way it should, because I didn't necessarily want to have any other things. Like, I didn't want to have flying in my game. I didn't want to have jumping in my game. I wanted to simplify the code as much as I could. So, and actually I managed to write my code being only 50 lines for the player instead of over 100 as this guy did in the tutorial, which was, I think, is a pretty improvement. Here I'm changing some things, so I had to use get global transform.basis, which is a good way to get the local transform instead of the global, which is incredibly useful in making games. Using ladders, I don't think that one was needed, but he continued showing how to use the controller and all of that. Me just using some comments, seeing if anyone has run into some issues. I don't quite remember what was the problem there. And here I'm trying to put in the key into the game, into the world, seeing if I can use this as tiles. Wasn't quite sure. It was kind of slow. I was like, it kind of can work. I was looking to see how I could use this, because I wanted to really simplify placing all the keys and doors, which, if you have seen the game or have played the game already, it's completely not using this key. So that was the original. Here I'm using Magic Voxel just to see to change the tiles into a much simpler thing, because it didn't look good. So I just export it. I found out that in Godot, 1 meter is exactly 10 squares in Magic Voxel. So that's a really nice thing to know, because in Unity, for instance, 1 block is 1 meter. So it's a much bigger difference. Here's the first version of the door I'm making through, again, from Magic Voxel, just trying to see make something dungeon-like, because it is going to be all maze, so I kind of felt like it's going to have to be some sort of dungeon-like style. Then I tried making some sort of hole, and then my sister came along and changed all the colors to be correct, obviously, because my sister does that. As you can see, she's changing all the colors, me sharing it to the community because I can. And it's a lot of fun seeing what people react. And then exporting the door and the door frame as separate. Here I tried to put the door in, but it didn't quite match the pivot in Godot. So I was kind of confused why Magic Voxel was exporting it so differently. So anyway, I had to manually set up the door where it is placed and all of that. And here's my realization. It's actually much more different. At the height of the ceiling was actually also 5 meters instead of 4 meters, which I had originally done for my door. And here I've fixed that by just extending the bottom of the door and then making the keyhole, the door hole thing, whatever it is, because door bowl thing. Yeah, that's how I called it, and it's still called like this to this day. Yeah, just trying to make sure it's all aligned, and then I asked my sister here to come and play around with some of the emission and the lighting and all of this, and then I told her that I want to make it kind of glowy, so she did. And then later she came in and messed around with the fog and the lighting, because she's really good at this. She's a good artist. She's only 12, but she's really good at doing all sorts of visual things. So as you can see, she did a lot of really cool tweaking and messing around and playing with all sorts of blur and bloom and whatever, the fog and everything else, and then playing around in the game. See how it all looks, messing around with the things. Anyway, some really cool fun. I had to continue working, and I tried to export all the tiles to be separate things in Wings. I don't remember. I think there was a problem with the tiles. Oh yeah, me playing a bit of Roblox because my sister was trying to show me something lighting wise that there is in Godot, which it isn't in Roblox, which is kind of cool. And here's me importing the key, actually having it also glow just like the door, so it would match obviously the color, so people would know that this key matches this door, which it doesn't look like a key. It's just some sort of ball that goes in the correct place. And then there's me looking back through the tutorial again to see some of the things, how I can collect this, but it just didn't work. The problem was that I had exported that I made the collision shape directly from the mesh, which I should have done like separately. Thankfully, the Discord community helped me out in terms of how I should do that, and I wasn't sure how to make the player collect the key, so I asked the Discord community, which I will in a few moments. They'll be showing me. Yeah, I was looking all sorts of places, but then here I'm asking them, how can I do that? How can I collect the ball? And then they said, oh, you can use remote transform, which is a really cool thing. But first I wasn't even able to pick it up, so that was the problem. I quickly made a video showing what the problem was. They were a bit confused, so I was like, oh, this is how my collisions are set up. Oh, and they said, oh, try making it simpler, which I just did. And it's like, oh, okay, now it works. It's like, oh, that's the problem. And then remote path, remote transform. This is really, really cool tool if you want to just make things like, oh, holders. Like I'm holding this thing now. As you can see, I'm playing around with the ball, holding it, instead of having to actually change the transform every single frame or parent it somehow differently. This is a really cool tool. I never knew that, and it's really nice talking to other people who know such things. And then here is me looking at how I can make so that the key or the door would know if the key is the correct matching key. And this person said like you can use resources for both the key and the door, and then you can see if the key, when it enters the door, if it matches, if the resource matches, which it took a while for me to do. It was a little bit of pain, as you can see, but it all worked out in the end. But then my dad came along and said, oh, there's a simpler way to do that. You could have just had the door linked to the key and the key linked to the door, and the door could tell, like, oh, are you this object? If this key is the same object, then that entered, then it's the correct key. So otherwise not. So it would have been a lot simpler to make it like that, but I was like, no, whatever, too late. Kind of had already made it. So here's me looking through the thing, how to make the mouse not be moving around in the screen. Here I'm trying to figure out why there would be always an error when I walk up into that corner of the wall. So I couldn't figure out why. It just kept breaking all the time. As you can see in the debugger, there's a lot of errors. So I tried re-exporting it from Wings. That couldn't work. It still didn't work. But I think it was the same problem with the mesh collision shapes. Oh yeah, and here's me making sure that the animation then later would work, because I wanted to add the animation to the door to open the door. And here's me looking through the Discord community, seeing how they show. And here's me looking at how can I steal, quote unquote, the key from the player. And here I actually forgot that I was recording this part right here. It's just me talking to the chat about all sorts of random things, and then me going to play some Q-Clash Roblox. It's quite a lot of fun. Fun game I sometimes go and play. It was kind of partly late in the evening, so I decided to just play, and then it crashed, and then I stopped. And the next day, and I'm now setting up the actual maze, because I needed to make something very interesting, and it's really satisfying watching the maze just grow out in a time lapse. I knew it would be kind of satisfying watching it, but it's really cool. Just watching it, how it grows and puts together. Yeah, and then there's me sharing it to the Discord, saying, is this too big or too small? Or is it okay? Does it work? And I was like, oh, there is still no exits to the thing. And yeah, that's kind of funny. Here's that hole right there in the middle. That's going to be the exit. Which, if you have played the game, you would know that's the actual end of the game. Because I actually couldn't think of what to do. The reason I actually came up with this game to be in the theme, because I couldn't think of anything, is because when you open the key, when you open the door with the correct key, that opens up a different key, which is a beginning of a new kind of journey in terms of looking for another door to open. So it's kind of like that kind of fits the theme. So I thought it might work. So here's me making more colors to fit, to work in with all the doors and the keys, because I needed more colors. And I ended up making 7 colors, which kind of worked in the beginning, but obviously when you have a lot of doors for the first level, it's not quite enough, so you have to think much differently in terms of how you structure what can be allowed openable and what not. So yeah, me setting up the first door, the first key, making sure everything is kind of like quote-unquote prefab, but as you can see on the right in the inspector, there is red everywhere, meaning that whatever I'm changing might not be saved. And I didn't know this I mean, I knew that there might have been something wrong, but as you will see later, it did not end up turning out really well. It was quite of a pain. But here's me still going through all of the doors and setting up all of the keys and doors and seeing what can lock what and what can hide away what. Which key is behind which door. And it took me so long to go through everything. I have to obviously work backwards, because that's how the logic works for such a game, because it's hard to work otherwise. So I looked through every single key and door and all of that. I think the animation was already done by this point. I think it was so fast that I had already made the animation. And there's me just looking through everything and playtesting the game. And then I think it took me about half an hour to playtest the game the first time, which will be about soon. Here's me sharing it to other people so they can playtest it. And I think, yeah, at some point there will be me playtesting the game. Yeah, there's me playing the game, kind of for the first time myself. Kind of like, I've already forgotten where anything is, so there's me. It's like, oh, where am I going? Okay, there we go. So I'm now going through every key. It's like, no, that's not the right key, not the right door. So I had to duplicate more materials, actually, because each material links to both the key and the door. But if one key and door is already unlocked, they change their material. But I don't want that to happen to other doors that are the same material. So I had to make more of the materials. Here's me playtesting the game again. Wee. Yeah. I tried looking for the other door for the longest times, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't fit. I was the wrong blue, I forgot myself. And then I finished. Yay! So then I was like, okay, time to make more stuff. And then it all reset, because I reopened the thing. So as you can see, there's me looking back through the time lapse to make sure that I can restore everything, because I had apparently forgotten that that's not how it works. So in Godot, the red thing meant like you can lose all the changes. So I had restarted. I think I restarted Godot, and then that just reset all of the doors, and I was like, no! So the next day I just came, and I was like, okay, time to go for every single door, make sure all the keys and doors are all the correct color, matching again. As you can see, I'm just changing this one because I didn't want to have the same blue again. And then I try to see if I can restore as much as I can, both from memory and from the time-lapse screenshots that I had already saved. Yeah, it was a pain. It took me a while to do this, so it's gonna be some time me trying to figure out what goes where. But as you can see, I'm almost seemingly done. But then there was some things that were super confusing, like which pink door is it? Is it this purple door that opens this key, or is it that purple door that opens that key? And it's like, oh wait, no, it's the other one, and they're the other way around. Yeah, it was kind of my bad. I had messed it up really. But I managed in the end. As you can see, I have got all of them correctly done. I'm just making sure that they are all doing the correct things. They're in correct things. I still got a few more left. Yeah, this part was where I was super confused. It took me the absolute longest. It was very painful. But I'm done. And then there's me looking through what other people have done, and I'm like, yay, it's done. It's time to playtest my game. Woohoo! As you can see, I'm playtesting the game. Come on, blue, and finally, yay! It is done. It works. So now I can export it, maybe have some other people playtest it. I think my dad was playtesting it then. So it's time to make the second level. So I tried to make sure all the doors are separately, they're all put together. I just put them all in one place, and here's me starting the second level, starting from where I drop down into the next level, because I like that spot. So I just put the hole in there. So that's where this level ends. And so I decided to put it all together. As you can see, here's me. And then I tried playing around with some of the lighting. I tried to make an inverse of the color, perhaps having more colors, because 7 colors isn't quite enough, but then it didn't quite work. I tried all sorts of messing around with the shader, but yeah, so I just decided to continue looking through some people's crazy videos which they have been sharing, and it's like, ow. Oh, sorry for that one. Time to put it all together, and I'm still making the maze. I think that's the maze done. Now I have to cover up the thing to have the other level have the ceiling, because it's nice to have it in a kind of, because I want to have this sort of dungeon-like feeling to it, because it seems like it's all underground and you're kind of going deeper. So it's kind of, that's what I wanted to do, which I did in the end. Have the final level, this level, with the ceiling. Here's me trying to play this in the browser, but it didn't work. And there's me continuing to put the doors and the keys into the second level, which is, well, it's technically the second level from the ground level, but it's level 1 for the player. Time to playtest. I didn't playtest all that much, but now I decided to actually remake all the colors to make it a very nice palette. So my sister had already put the saturation and the value to a very nice color. So I just decided to make some other things, and I tried to make sure that the lights also, along with the material, is correct. But the Discord community, they did give me a correct answer technically, but I was using the wrong type of material. I mean, having the material in the wrong place. So as you can see, there's me trying to share it with others and see if that is gonna work. Yeah, then I explained the full thing, but then I had to just manually go through it because it didn't quite work. Plus it would be faster, because the thing is, I didn't think this through. It would work a lot better if I would have thought through the entire thing, like how I want the doors to work, how I want the colors to fit. There is a way to sort this out by script, so I wouldn't have to be going through every single door and the Omni light manually, which I did end up doing, which, you know, if there is over 20 doors, there's 20 doors in one level and 18 doors in the other level, it's quite tedious. So as you can see, I'm just changing the color manually. Yeah, it's quite a pain. But I got it done in the end. If I would be redoing or completing this game, then I would actually make this from scratch, because there is a lot of things that I did wrong, obviously, as having this my first ever game that I have done in Godot, but obviously the logic was still incorrect. Here's me adding some of the other booleans for the game, and this is actually the final, no, not the final day, one more day left, and I'm thinking of doing the menu, because I kind of need the menu, I mean just the start screen, so like what the player would see when they start. So I decided to make kind of like a cinematic looking like simple menu, and then there's me putting in the cameras, making sure the animation works nicely. I just make some cool things as I can. And I was kind of pretty happy with the result, apart from kind of one camera which was really near that yellow door. Making sure the logic works correctly, and then on the next day looking through what everyone's been up to, just to see how it's working. And then it's the final day. I'm looking through, thinking of what I can change. I need to do the end of the game. I need to still do some music. There was absolutely no sound. I was so not into sound. I wanted to have a timer in the game because that would work. So I was looking at how to make the end here, the end of the game, where you drop down through. So I just had to export a texture. It didn't work any other way, so I just made it in Inkscape real quick. And then I ended up actually, because I'm using two wildcards, I mean unintentionally, the dad joke and the pacifists. So basically I haven't injured the player or killed the player in the game, so that's why the pacifist comes, and the dad joke is just the name of the game, being Amazing Land. I think the name of the game came when after I had known that this was one of the wildcards, that just reminded me of the game that I did before, so I just decided to take the same name, because originally it was called Amaze Land. So I was like, let's just make it funny. Anyways, here's me adding some sound. I try to play around, mess around, making some sounds for the doors, because I needed to have some sounds because it didn't look nice at all. Looking for some more tutorials on how to use sounds, and then it's like, oh, it's just pretty simple. It's just like this. The pickup sound for when you pick up the key, I had to add a bit of some more code because it didn't quite work right at first. There's some more playing around with sound effects. Found the sound effect for the door squeak. So I just put that in to the game. Here's me playing around. That's the door, like, oh, kind of like, it's the key going in the door, and it's like something like that of a sound. I have already forgotten what the sound is like, but yeah, there's me messing around with that, and then there's me putting it into the animation. But obviously I had to slightly tweak things up, see if that could work. There's the key working in the door. There's all sorts of sounds. So now there's more sounds. I had to redo all of the not redo. I just had to reload the correct animation into all of the doors because they weren't linked in for some reason. So now it's all done. So now those are working, the sounds. And now I need some music. But Juke Deck, which I used, which was a computer generated, it's a website where it generates the sounds for you. It just didn't work. So I found Computoser, which was a nice computer generated music. As you can see, I'm just looking through some of the songs, some of the tracks that it made, and I was like, oh, that's a nice track. I'm gonna save that one. For some reason I either clicked something incorrectly for the download, so I had to just record it through Audacity, which I did, and here we go. here's the music for the game and all the sounds already done. So that's pretty much the game done and complete. Time to make some more just minor adjustments and tweaks. Make sure everything works. Add the timer in, because that's what I had slightly forgotten. It's like, oh yeah, I need the timer. That's a really nice way to format the time, the way he showed, but I didn't want to have it just like at the end of the game. I wanted to show like while you're playing the game, so the text would update. So it took me a while to put it all together, and the string formatting, it was like kind of a bit of a mess. I was like, how does this work? Why am I getting errors all the time? I was doing something wrong, but as you can see, in the end, it does work. Yeah. And it does work when you jump through into the end. It does actually stop the timer, which is nice. And then there's me exporting the project. It's time to look at how to export it, make sure it's all submitted, add a bit more credits to everything that has helped me make this game, all the programs and everything. Well, most of the programs. So I tried with the sound, with the timer. It was a bit messed up because it didn't quite work. And as you can see, it's now working. Here's me play testing through the first level of the game, and I think here is me trying to speedrun the game. Oh, not quite. I was going through the entire thing. It's like, okay, the timer works perfectly. So then I took a screenshot because I knew there was a cheat way of doing this. So there's me playing through the game, and there we go. 5 minutes 42 seconds is my speed run for this game, knowing exactly where everything is. Time for screenshots and publishing and everything, because there is only 1 hour left to the jam, and I've got to export it all and do all of this together. Put all the description, put all the controls, share it with people, make sure the builds are correct, the exports, putting it all together, and that's it. This is pretty much the end of how this game was made. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video of me making Amazing Land. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so you get notified every single time we upload a new video. Yeah, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.